We've set out our taxation proposals, and again, I've said to people time and time again, there's nothing up my sleeve. If we go into government now, that's what we'll be implementing. But on issues like, as we've seen with the report today, we want to take things further. And the reason I want to take things further, well, look at the last budget. The OBR, downgrading of productivity, demonstrated we've got a crisis that we've got to deal with. That crisis has got to be dealt with by investment. I've been saying this for 2 years, but I'm coming forward now with more detailed proposals about the structures and the operation of those structures that will achieve that investment. So, of course, the manifesto will move on. But, again, what I'm saying is that in terms of the issues that people have raised with me, for example, taxation, we've set out our taxation policy. Income tax, we will not raise income tax on 95% of the population, and even on that 5% it'll be relatively, I think, relatively minor. In terms of the financial transaction tax, we put that forward in our manifesto. That will continue on, but we're going out to consult people in the city and elsewhere, say how do they think it's going to be implemented, and are there any changes they think that we could implement, incorporate to keep them, I think, involved in the process of investment in the long term.
And in terms of nationalisations, then, is that list fixed?
Yes,
Because
it is. What we've said, let's run through it. We've responded to popular demand to a large extent, taking rail. And again, what we're saying there, as the franchise fall out, we'll take them
rail
back. Water. We've said energy, we will grow from the grassroots, and we'll look at the national grid at some later date. And we've also said Royal Mail. All of those, they haven't just been plucked out of the air by ourselves. If you look at opinion poll after opinion poll, that's what people are demanding, because they feel ripped off at the moment by these privatisations.
So that's why there's room for the private sector in energy, but not room for the private sector in water.
Yes, and we've made that clear. And I'm sitting down with all those companies as well that are in the supply chains to these industries too, to give them the assurance that they will play a role in the supply chain to them.
You'll probably have read in the media reports that, well, you've all even talked about capital controls and whether that might be necessary if there were to be a victory for the Labour Party. You haven't talked about it. Maybe you've read about it in the media as I have. Then, are you doing any work on potential need for capital controls?
I've had all these questions thrown at me, and I've said time and time, I've never raised capital controls. I've never raised capital controls. What I've said,
run on the pound.
Run on the pound was a question to me, and what did I say? There won't be a run on the pound. There won't be a run on the pound. If you look at our plans, the more
you're wargaming.
Well, let me finish that. I said there won't be a run on the pound. But if you look at what the proposals we're putting forward, I think there'll be a strong pound under us, because we'll give certainty to all those investors that our economy will be strong and be based upon the investment that we'll want them to contribute to the growth of our economy. Of course, when we go into power, what we want to do is make sure that we can cope with anything that comes at us. But certainly I'm not working on the basis there'll be a run on the pound, quite the reverse.
Okay. You've described yourself as a Marxist many times, and for many people this will be the first time they've had a Marxist running the Treasury.
I'm a socialist. What I've described myself as a socialist.
Okay.
What does socialism entail in the British context? It takes a whole strand of different ideas that come together. So there was an element of Marxism in the development of the Labour Party in the first instance. There was social democracy. There was the Attlee forms of how you manage a government in terms of redistribution of wealth to fund our public services, and Crossland as well, who tackles inequality by development, particularly with regard to training and education, all those ones. All those, I embody virtually all of those trends in the broad church of the Labour Party. That's our tradition, and when we've been in government in the past, we've drawn on all of those different elements that contributed to the development of the Labour Party to ensure that we're a successful government, and that's what we'll be again.
So you would, I mean, one bank referred to you, the potential for a Labour government, as maybe creating Cuba without the sunshine in the United Kingdom. Does that sound appealing, John?
No, they better come and have a chat with me, because I think they need to know what we're all about. That's why I'm going around to see so many people, and that's why so many people are knocking on my door to come see me. And what's interesting, when we've had those conversations, people go away reassured, because they know what we're about is achieving a prosperous economy which is economically and environmentally sustainable. And you know, most of them are on that same page.